So, in the comment section on the news video we put out yesterday, I was described as unprofessional and unpolished. I am one for taking on advice and criticism, and that is something I can do something about right now. There we go. Oh, lovely. You could eat your hand off that dinner. I'm still not funny. Here's your wrestling news. WWE venues are being investigated as COVID hotspots. A released WWE star is making an in-ring return, and a former WWE and IMPACT star has won a major indie title. We'll talk about it in a bit. The Orange County Department of Health is running COVID-19 investigations in the region where there has been particular hotspots of COVID activity. Quite a few businesses ending up on this list for the Orange County Department of Health. And to no surprise, WWE is on that list of places being investigated. So it means that Orange County health experts will be going into WWE's businesses to see exactly how the protocol is being run and see if there's anything they can do to stop these hotspots from flaring up. So this means that Full Sail University, which up until recently has been the home of NXT, the WWE Performance Center, now known as the Capitol Wrestling Center, and the Amway, the home of the ThunderDome, all being looked into by Orange County officials. So what this means for WWE, does this mean WWE are going to be shutting up shop and closing down and waiting until this all blows over? I highly doubt it, but it does mean that Orange County are taking seriously the two reported cases of COVID outbreaks that WWE has had since the start of the pandemic. Of course, we had one whilst Raw and SmackDown were both emanating from the Performance Center, and we had another reported just before Clash of Champions, which saw changes to the card following, I believe this was following a breakout at the Performance Center. So of course, they have to look into it. WWE have put out a statement following the announcement from the Orange County Department of Health, and they have said, quote, WWE is not open to the public, but rather operating on a closed set with only essential personnel in attendance. As part of ongoing weekly testing protocols, Aventus Labs have administered more than 10,000 PCR tests to WWE performers, employees, production staff, and crew, resulting in only 1.5% positive cases as compared to the current national average of 5. Additionally, extensive contact tracing takes place, and impacted individuals are placed in 14-day quarantine and then only cleared after they test negative. WWE saying that they're doing everything right. Orange County going to look into them anyway. We'll see how this pans out, and of course, when we know more, you will know more at Cultaholic.com. A former WWE star that was released a few months back is making an appearance on the indie circuit. Erick Rowan, close enough. Erick Rowan, now known as Erick Redbeard, is going to be part of the United Wrestling Network's search for a new world champion. They announced yesterday on the UWN, they've been doing these amazing hour, prime time specials on pay-per-view. And they've been bringing in all sorts of unique talent from all around the wrestling world, some names involved in there as well. And last night they announced a tournament to crown a UWN champion. And one of those names in the tournament that got the internet talking was the now known Erick Redbeard, formerly Erick Rowan from WWE. He's going to be in the opening round taking on Watts. Also in that tournament, we'll see Chris Dickinson taking on Peter Avalon, Carl Fredericks taking on Fred Rosser, and Davey Boy Smith Jr. facing another former WWE star in Mike Bennett. Should be a sleeper of a tournament, that. Should be good fun to watch, that will be. It's good to see Erick Rowan back doing something. I know WWE tried for a long time to get something that meshed with him, and I think outside of the stuff with the Wyatts, nothing really clicked with Erick Rowan, despite what they tried. You know, they even tried to make him the man that nearly destroyed Roman Reigns just the other summer, and still no dice. But Erick back on the scene now as Erick Redbeard, and we wish him luck. UWN has actually been a real force of good within wrestling lately. These shows they've been putting on have been bringing together not just former WWE stars and some guys from AEW and Impact, but it's also been the home of some of the National Wrestling Alliance-based activity, since NWA Power is off air. And we'll talk more about that later in the video. Jake Hager has some words for Stephanie McMahon. So Stephanie McMahon put out a tweet, very delighted with the announcement that WWE has become the 2020 Corporation of the Year at the PR News, CSR and Non-Profit Awards. She put out a tweet celebrating this, saying WWE's mission is to put smiles on faces, and it could not be done without the hard work and passion of this incredible team. Jake Hager quote retweeted this and said, LMAO, I guess lying about over 37 million in quarterly profits so you can fire over 300 people during a worldwide pandemic is a category for an award. He then tagged Andrew Yang in this, who is one of the figures in politics who's really pushing for change within professional wrestling. So Jake Hager speaking out against Stephanie McMahon there. And then there is lots of questions about there's a lot of PR awards that WWE seems to be winning at the moment, which, when you consider everything that's gone on this year, there's some real nasty flavoured irony to that, isn't there? An Impact Wrestling star has requested their release. The release has been granted to Darger. Now, Darger, you may have seen on and off on Impact Wrestling since February of last year. He's been back between there and Major League Wrestling. He is the partner of Tessa Blanchard, who of course left under a bit of a cloud earlier on this year. She was terminated, her contract was terminated with Impact Wrestling as she was seen as uncooperative and not attending certain shows and not responding and the general consensus was she wasn't fulfilling her contractual obligations and she was terminated. Now her partner Darger has gone the same way. Now this was broken by Wrestling Inc., who say that this is something that's been in the works for quite a while, but Impact wanted to negotiate with Darger and hasn't processed like the release from the contract until now. Darger hasn't yet, at time of recording, made it known that he has left, but he put out a tweet on Monday saying it is just a matter of time. Darger is a really solid performer, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him, if he has left Impact Wrestling, turn up doing some stuff at least with AEW Dark. There wouldn't be a surprise to me if there was some interest from WWE for him as well. I feel like he'd be a good fit within the Cruiserweight division and on 205 Live as well. Whether Tessa Blanchard would follow as well, that's yet to be seen. And Finalama, a former Impact star and a former WWE star, had a great night last night on Primetime Live, the show we talked about earlier on today. You may know him as Elijah Burke. You may know him as D'Angelo De Niro. He is now the Pope, and he is also now the champion, as last night Elijah Burke / D'Angelo De Niro / the Pope became the NWA television champion, ending the reign of Zicky Dice after 200 plus days. So NWA continues to be represented thanks to the United Wrestling Network. That's where you'll find the titles being defended, some storylines being carried over as well, and also big title changes and circumstances as well. A big win for the Pope, really puts him on the map in wrestling as well. One of those guys who back in the day felt like you couldn't miss with him. And it seemed like it all just sort of drifted away. It's so good to see him back in a prominent position. And you look at the lineage of the NWA Television Championship: Tully Blanchard, Dusty Rhodes, Arn Anderson. Also, Steve Austin held that championship as well. Many other people have had that belt before him. And now the Pope adding his name to that prestigious list. Big love to the Pope. On the Cultaholic podcast feed later on today, it is a brand spanking new episode of Desert Island Graps. I am joined by former WWE writer, currently working behind the scenes at Impact Wrestling. You may know him from Ring of Honor, or, as we talked about, from Wrestling Society X. Jimmy Jacobs joins me for a chat, and it gets quite deep. Excited for you to hear it later on. We'll be asking Jimmy what 3 wrestling matches he would watch if he was stuck on a desert island, among loads of other things. We talk about that too. Subscribe to the Cultaholic podcast feed to hear that for yourself. I will speak to you tomorrow. Don't forget to join us. Love you, bye.